Video is brought to you by mine. Hey Wisecrack, Helen here. So something weird is happening to ostensibly smart public figures lately. Public intellectuals, if you will. Neil deGrasse Tyson, who built a massive platform to spread science literacy, has transformed into a weird well-actually guy who says very dumb things about philosophy.
My concern there is that the philosopher believes they're actually asking deep questions about nature. And to the scientist, it's, what are you doing? Why are you wasting your time? Well, why are you concerning yourself with the meaning of meaning?
Which I am still very mad about, Neil. Then there's your Elon Musk type, who has leveraged his fortune and fame to become a self-appointed spokesman on a wide variety of issues, while routinely giving out information that is either bonkers or just plain deceptive, to the point that even I, a once self-proclaimed Elon Musk fangirl, can no longer stand
His
behind.
name is
The institutions
Hasan.
that publish public intellectuals aren't doing well either. The New York Times...
Remember when Elon Musk correctly predicted that coronavirus would be over by February or by April? I mean, he's a scientist, dude.
Can't seem to go 1 month without putting out a massively ridiculed op-ed from brainy folks like David Brooks. And then there's the hundreds or thousands or Jesus, I can't even count the amount of YouTube talking heads with hyper-dedicated followings, good and bad, that cover current events and popular culture. While it's too diverse a group to describe monolithically, and I won't name any names for fear of provoking their legions, these YouTube public intellectuals...
Elon Sims be like, he never said what year! I love that. I love the argument. It is actually Elon meant like April of 2021 actually, or 2022 even. Could be. He didn't say what year, so when he said Corona will go away 0 deaths by April, he just meant whichever year.
Might have come across your feeds for instance, not understanding basic human anatomy. It'd be easy to think that our society is getting dumber or our great thinkers less rigorous, but that doesn't seem like a fair assessment. There are some truly great intellectuals out there doing great work. Still, as chronically online people who like to learn, we're convinced that there's something severely messed up about how knowledge is created.
Are you suggesting that Elon Kuhn isn't epic Mars bacon? Please, honey, if you knew your science, which I fucking love, by the way, as evidenced by the fact that I am subscribed to every single iteration of I fucking love science Facebook blogs, then you'd know that Senpai SpaceX is single-handedly taking humanity to Mars. Also, I'm so tired of Jellyhose mad at him for not getting his humor. His company is SpaceX. SpaceX, LMAO, for anyone without a STEM degree who couldn't get it. His cars are the models S3XY. Get it? Sexy. For those of you who can't understand leet speak, you guys are just jealous that you can handle the 420 joke. LOL.
And shared in the 21st century. So
incredible
what if
copy
DeGrasse Tyson's
pasta.
weird Twitter threads are a symptom of a much larger problem? And what if the biggest threat to good ideas is not at all what you thought? Let's find out in this Wisecrack edition on public intellectuals. What happened?
Wait, what does this imply that H-Bomber guy's a public intellectual and so is Joe Rogan?
First,
what?
Here's a bad idea. Letting your personal data flow flowing into foundation. It is a straight looking into mine today. Click the link in the description to check it out for free. It is a strange time for our society, intellectually speaking. The amount of money flowing into foundations, both liberal and conservative, to produce new and original research is unprecedented. Authors are paid tens of thousands of dollars to speak to private and public groups of curious minds. There are whole conferences dedicated to exploring new and disruptive ideas. And places like YouTube have reduced the traditional media stranglehold on the dissemination of ideas. If there's a marketplace of ideas where information, good and bad,
yes, we're gonna watch the Trump rally as always.
One might think this is a kind of golden age.
To see what he says about my main man Hunter.
So what's going on? To figure that out, let's talk about what scholar Daniel Dresner calls the ideas industry. A vast ecosystem of thought production that stands in contrast to the intellectual landscape of decades past. For Dresner, a public intellectual is a person who comments on a variety of ideas. They know enough about many things to be able to point out intellectual charlatans. They expose accepted wisdom when it doesn't stand up to scrutiny, and And for this, a public intellectual is crucial to democratic discourse. They span the ideological spectrum. People like William F. Buckley, Bertrand Russell, or James Baldwin. The French love them. And people like Jean-Paul Sartre, Simone de Beauvoir, and Michel Foucault were superstars in the bistro-lined streets of their native country. They went on TV and radio and criticized their government's foreign policy. They would debate about race and racism, and so on.
Putting Buckley up there with like someone like Foucault is so funny and completely gives the game away that Republicans, reactionaries in general, have no fucking standing in the intellectual circles, and it's basically affirmative action for them. Okay, we're doing a jobs program for conservatives. Now, affirmative action would also imply that, like, you know, people who don't deserve to be in positions of power are getting it. That's not even the case. But in the circumstance of like Republicans getting a jobs program, they literally are doing that. They don't deserve to be in that position next to like prolific writers, philosophers, actual people who you would regard as like actual people who you would regard as members of the intelligentsia. And then you have William F. Buckley. Like, are you joking? Are you fucking joking, dude?
Public intellectuals still exist, but for everyone you can name, there's probably a dozen pseudo-intellectuals who come to mind much more easily. What
Like
Dresner
me.
calls thought leaders, a horrific invention of the ideas industry. You probably know the type. Someone with a big idea, an idea that will revolutionize everything. If a public intellectual curmudgeonly points out what's wrong with everyone else's worldview, a thought leader is an evangelist for their own. Public intellectuals tread carefully and weigh evidence. Thought leaders have a product to sell. And sometimes, public intellectuals are
Communism.
seduced into becoming thought leaders themselves. Enter Amy Cuddy. Cuddy is a social psychologist who spent the first few years of her career doing the normal academic thing, researching, publishing, thinking. Then, in 2010, she published a paper suggesting that one's posture could have effects not only on their psyche, but their biochemistry. By doing a power pose, say, a person could not only experience feelings of power, but raise their testosterone and reduce the levels of cortisol, the stress chemical, in their blood. Intimidated before your big sales meeting? Do a power pose. Gotta ace an exam? Power pose. Stuck on Dark Souls? Stand up, put your legs in a wide stance, and pick that controller back up, my guy.
What the
It's not
fuck?
just defeating demons, though. Cuddy and her fellow researchers suggested this simple hack might be of particular use to those who feel chronically powerless. Whether it's because you're the grunt in an organization, or because you belong to a social group that has been, in scientific terms,
For the people who don't understand, the point of the video and says like, oh, Hasan, they're talking about you. Like, no, there's a difference. Like, I don't try to make it seem like I'm a fucking intelligent person. I routinely tell you that I am a fucking himbo or that I'm an idiot. I've said like 3 times today that I'm not a smart person at all. I listen to smart people. Okay? All of those other people that they're referencing, one, have product to sell you. I don't. You literally beg me every fucking day to make you merchandise, and I don't do that. And secondly, I don't have like a big, bold idea, nor have I ever claimed intellectual legitimacy, as the chatter pointed out.
screwed by society. 2 years later, Cuddy would go on to give a TED Talk about the topic that would become the platform's second most popular, with over 40 million views. The implication, of course, is that if you're powerless in society, the power pose can help you climb to the top of the social hierarchy, thus combating inequality.
And I realized that she had not just faked it till she made it, she had actually faked it till she became it.
Also, TED Talk tickets are between $5,000 and $10,000. I don't make the rules. While Cuddy is no doubt an academic, her TED success had launched her into the role of a thought leader. As author Anand Giridharadas writes in his book, Winners Take All, her academic work now was competing with a budding speaking career and a self-help book. She was named a game changer by Time magazine in 2012. She had a product, and that product was the power pose. Of course, as an academic, she was interested in other kinds of research that, in theory, she would also like to expose to a wide audience. But instead of boosting her other work, her TED fame did the opposite, as Giridharadas notes. Despite Cuddy's rising fame, she found herself in a dilemma. She was an academic interested in studying the complexities of prejudice and sexism, and yet her TED Talk had drowned out every other thing she had ever said, and now she was fielding lucrative invitation after invitation to offer her ideas. The lack of interest in her other work was not exactly a coincidence either. Cuddy had made a splash at the ideas circuit, defined by events like TED, South by Southwest, or the Aspen Ideas Festivals, and made it to the big leagues of the ideas industry. At this point, authors like Dres.
This stuff is so trash, dude. All this stuff, like all of these like big ideas circuits where like rich liberals fly from all around the world to get together to like listen to other grifters, tell them how they can have like a marginal edge over their competition, when in fact the reality is they're there to network with one another and maintain control over their respective industries. I hate this shit. Imagine how stupid you have to be to pay $10K for a ticket to TEDx when it goes on YouTube a month later for free. Yeah. Well, it's not.
People
That's
like Cuddy basically become.
Come on, bro. They're not going to fucking TEDx and paying $10K for a ticket so that they can see everything beforehand. They're doing that so that they can make connections.
Become paid intellectuals for the kinds of people who can dish out 10 grand to attend a TED Talk in the first place.
You just mind you've never been invited? I have been invited. I've given talks at these sorts of idea seminars. What are you talking about? I did it in the past to play ball with my agency. Never a TEDx, but yeah, I have. I think it was like one was called Worlds, I think. Like straight up, what's the OG grifter that people compare to Jordan Peterson? Worlds
Whores
is
in this house.
Worlds I
There's some whores in this
did.
house. There's some whores in this house.
Not Tony Robinson. No, the fucking main speaker was like, no, the Indian guy. I think he is Indian, right? The Indian guy who like everyone says is like Jordan Peterson. Oh, Deepak Chopra, yeah.
Your affluent audience, you get to give more talks to the executives or staff at Goldman Sachs, Facebook, or Google. And there is a reason these organizations weren't interested in Cuddy's other research: their bottom line. The audiences Cuddy was speaking to, and being paid lucratively by, wanted to hear only certain kinds of messages. Ones that were disruptive, just not disruptive to their own place in the world. The Googles, Facebooks, and Goldman Sachs of the world are interested in hiring someone like Cuddy so long as her message is a win-win. The power pose is a safe solution to, say, workplace sexism. No complex changes to company culture have to occur. And most importantly, nobody has to lose any money. What especially moved such audiences, Giridharadas writes, was the rendering of social problems as unintimidating, bite-sized, digestible. Now, Cuddy isn't some lone wolf. She exists amidst a ton of names you probably recognize who write books that end up in airports, give talks at big conferences, and get referenced by important people doing important things. And their lifeblood comes from the corporate benefactors that like their win-win mentality. And this isn't without consequence. Harvard Business School professor Gautam Mukunda argues that
every fucking self-help book writer is absolutely a grifter, okay? They are. If I write a self-help book one day, I'm grifting you. I'm just letting you know. You can clip it and ship it later.
That Wall Street clings to power by promoting ideas that promote the rightness of that power. They reward those that agree with them and punish those who don't. As Upton Sinclair said,
okay, except for Dale Carnegie, I guess.
Difficult to get a man to understand something when his salary depends on not understanding it. The result can be an entire society twisted to serve the interests of its most powerful group. We can also compare it to someone like Sheryl Sandberg, who wanted to offer a win-win solution to sexism by encouraging women to lean in. Of course, serious scholars, Cuddy included, understand that these problems are far too complicated to have any quick fixes. But complexity is not what the ideas industry is interested in. Cuddy isn't getting into the door at the Coca-Cola Center for Civil and Human Rights, which is a real thing, by asking hard questions about why union leaders in their South American bottling plants have repeatedly disappeared. But she might get a fat check for explaining to their head of progress how workers can personally grow by feeling more confident. Cuddy is an interesting example precisely because she seems acutely aware of these problems, becoming a fascinating subject for Ghirardellis' book to document. But Cuddy's introspection is not universally present in the many thought leaders speaking to anyone who can cut a 50-grand check. And make no mistake, that's really how much some of them get paid. Historian Niall Ferguson reportedly received $50,000 to $75,000 per speech. Malcolm Gladwell also reportedly receives over $50,000 per speech. And if you were mad that Hillary Clinton was getting 200 grand to speak to a bunch of Wall Street execs, it's common practice for tons of politicians, including every ex-president, like George W. Bush and Bill Clinton, with the rare exception of Jimmy Carter.
Okay, dude, just kidding, I'm writing a self-help book. I'm writing a self-help book, boys.
It's not that every idea any of these people ever had is bad. While we might say, hey, get paid, who cares? It creates a perverse incentive for intellectuals and ex-politicians to not rock the boat too hard, unless they want to miss out on hundreds of thousands of dollars. This incentive also creates an echo chamber of ideas paid for and consumed by the people running the world. As Ghirardellis writes, the money can liberate the top thought leaders.
I've thought about, okay, all jokes aside, I've thought about writing a self-help book about how to do self-help and therefore help yourself by creating a cottage industry of self-helpers. Like as a critique of people that make self-help books. And I've said this before to you guys as well, like, unless the self-help guy is telling you how to make money by lying to others in the same way that he's currently lying to you, like it's a fucking pyramid scheme, like a self-help pyramid scheme, then you're not going to actually get help from them. Yeah, it is a self-help pyramid scheme, pretty much.
From the institutions and colleagues that might otherwise provide some kind of intellectual check on them, while sometimes turning their ideas into advertisements rather than self-contained work. A consequence of an academic receiving these massive payouts, like Ferguson, is that he doesn't have to please his editors. He sure as hell doesn't have to please scholars. He has to please corporations and high net worth individuals. What's more, Cuddy's power pose research wasn't very good. As is good science, someone tried to replicate her findings. They failed. Her co-author even disowned the study. The point is, this is not the kind of thing the ideas industry cares about. They want sound bites that make executives feel good, not objective.
Why is this guy saying we watched this video when the video literally came out like before the the video came out after the stream started?
Science. What we're left with is a whole universe of incredibly intelligent people who have no incentive to criticize the status quo. They're turned from critics of everything, like a public intellectual, to thought leaders, who are evangelists of not too disruptive ideas for Silicon Valley. As Dresner writes, TED Talks are designed for thought leaders to appeal to plutocrats. At less than 20 minutes, they are mercifully short. A perfect format for potential patrons. The working rich are busy people operating on a compressed schedule. You have certainly encountered many trendy ideas secreted by the ideas industry and its corporate benefactors. The very real and cool practice of mindfulness meditation has been stripped of anything that might mess with worker productivity, as we discussed in our episode on the topic. Malcolm Gladwell's idea of 10,000 hours has come under scrutiny for just being outright wrong. Then there's something like the 4-hour work week, which promises your regular economic output if you only work 4 hours by underpaying overseas personal assistants. Of course, TED Talks and speakers speaking gigs aren't writing Neil deGrasse Tyson's bad takes on philosophy or a legion of rage-filled YouTube screeds, but the public sphere of ideas is being injected by a steady stream of TED heads, leading to shallow takes that make easy targets for long invectives. We're left debating with a torrent of trash instead of quality ideas, and the pressures felt by Cuddy is the same pressure being exerted on smart people looking to be heard. But we'll get there. It also gives people incentive, once they've ascended to prominence, to close themselves off from criticism. Thomas Friedman has stated he can basically write whatever he wants. "I'm in this scary and enviable position," he said. "I can go to my publisher and say, I want to write a book. Here's the check. Don't you want to know what it's about?" But the public speaking
Fuck Thomas Friedman.
circuit isn't even the scariest source of our pipeline of garbage ideas. For that, we have to turn to the think tank. American think tanks started sprouting up in the early 1900s.
Oh my
as
god,
people
this video is
started
really
wondering
good.
if
This video is actually good as fuck.
the governor's drinking buddy was maybe less equipped to deal with trade policy than some kind of expert. These think tanks claim to be nonpartisan, although they certainly had their own ideologies. Some of them are still around today.
And nearly all of them are capitalist in nature, with the
Like-
exception of, I guess, like the public policy.
Hey.
What was it? What is Matt Bruning's think tank? Which is crowdfunded. You're just saying that because of the cutie narrator? No, this video is actually pretty fucking good.
The Council on Foreign Relations, which publishes Foreign Affairs, and the Brookings Institute, whose goal is to analyze public policy issues at the national level. As Dresner writes,
Progressive public
they were
policy,
there to
sorry.
assist government bureaucrats, to work in conjunction with them. At the same time, they were bankrolled by the very wealthy, the Carnegies and the Rockefellers of the world. While think tanks were never some kind of perfect organization, events in the last few decades
the
have
People's
cemented
Policy
their
Project.
position as a way for people with a lot of money to launch
Whatever, the
ideas to
Triple P.
politicians and the public
Thank
at
you.
large. While the new model might be exemplified by the Conservative Heritage Foundation under former Senator Jim DeMint, it has since gained popularity for liberal and progressive think tanks as well. DeMint was very good at fundraising, but
I like that they glanced over the Center for American Project being a progressive think tank. Neera Tanden, by the way. Neera Tanden's place. I mean, I guess they technically were the most progressive at the time. They did hire the likes of, well, now relatively reactionary on social issues, Zaid Jilani and even Li Fong at the time. And they did, I think Progress did actually put out some decent articles, but I'm not gonna act like Cap is. I mean, those people won't even act like Cap is actually progressive. So chill. I work for an internship at the Council on Foreign Relations. Okay, bro.
most notably, he had his staff review all heritage papers to ensure that they conformed to the official policy of the think tank. It was the success of Heritage that would convince people like the billionaires Herbert and Marion Sandler to cut a $20 million check to John Podesta to create the liberal Center for
Faiz
American
Shakir
Progress.
too, obviously.
Like their conservative counterparts, the Center for American Progress is about promoting a certain worldview, not creating rigorous scholarship or thought.
Have you ever debated stream with Bastiat? Chat, you know where to find me. Bro, why are you... Dude, Bastiat Sims are so funny. This person yesterday was literally saying, like, you were being very mean to Bastiat or something. Dude, I love you. You keep doing you, okay?
As the head of the Competitive Enterprise Institute told an interviewer, groups like
I'm gonna
ours,
run the ad
how
after
do we
this
earn
video.
credibility? We have a very strong point of view, and
What do you want me to do? Do you want me to stop? Do you want me to stop in the middle of the fucking video and run an ad? Is that what you want? Here, okay, I'll run the ad. Wait 60 seconds. Don't worry. I won't watch the video. I will wait 60 seconds.
His name is Hasan.
There.
I'm writing for you.
Okay, and now I'm going to go pee. Yeah, good job, guys. I said I was going to run it after. Actually, I don't really care. You are doing a good job by reminding me at the top of the hour. At the top of the hour, every hour. Nick Saban has COVID. Alabama in shambles. That's what happens when you decide to vote for the ex-Auburn coach, Alabama, for Senate. What is his name? Tommy Tubler, Tommy Tumbler. The fuck's the guy's name? Nick Saban, whatever.
Oh,
Saban,
you're such a
Saban,
big
I don't care.
man, Hasan.
Shaban, I'm gonna call him Shaban. Tommy Salami, Tommy Tuberville. All right, ad's over.
We've never deviated from that point of view. As they
I
grappled
waited.
with incredibly complex
ass
issues like
keyword.
poverty
Make that
alleviation
pull-out
and
game
fiscal
weak.
policy, it wasn't the facts driving their conclusion, it was their pre-existing beliefs. As author David Callaghan summarizes, the think tank was invented in the 20th century to offer objective analysis of complex issues. Now, though, think tanks often operate as the motherships of ideological movements on both the left and the right. These think tanks aren't just thinking in
His
a bubble,
name
they're a
is
hugely
Hasan.
influential part of American politics. For instance, changes to federal welfare were made in 1996 after millions of dollars were poured into research arguing that much social spending just made poverty worse. And, as Callaghan notes, the foreign policy vision behind the Iraq War was partly made by a think tank, the Project for the New American Century. In another example, large sums of money were given by the United Arab Emirates to centrist think tanks like the Middle East Institute. If think tanks were once a way to provide independent expertise to governments, they have become a way for a donor, even a foreign government, to influence policymakers. You've probably even been exposed to paid-for ideas as you watch TV, YouTube, or scroll through Facebook. For instance, public opposition to an Iran nuclear deal in 2015 soared after a huge influx of advertising dollars by interest groups and think tanks. If disruptors and thought leaders seem so appealing, it might be because many have intuitive
Chat, when Hasan Piker come back, say Pepe La, so he'll be confused. Literally one person did it.
His name
Jim Boner.
is
You got
Hasan.
one person to do it. Now everyone's doing it because I called it out.
a kind of intellectual bankruptcy everywhere in the world. Lately, it seems like everyone is quick to throw their own facts and figures that tell exactly their side of the story. It can lead to a kind of factual nihilism. My facts are objective, and yours are created by some shill funded by George Soros. And it's entirely likely that the existence of think tanks
His
fuels
name
this
is
problem.
Hasan.
Not that we'd all be able to get on the same page otherwise, but think tanks have dressed up ideological propaganda as objective studies. To return to our Upton Sinclair quote, it is difficult to get a
Oftentimes capitalist propaganda.
man to understand something when his salary depends on not understanding it. This is the marketplace of ideas that one looking to become a public intellectual must grapple with. Unless they're willing to bend their views, they're unlikely to survive at a think tank. They might get a job at a university. However, the publisher-perish model encourages them to not engage with the public and instead double down on writing to an audience of a few dozen specialists. And then there's the internet. Amidst think tanks, TED heads, and countless paid-for media, there exist podcast hosts, political commentators, Twitch streamers, and vloggers eager to dispense wisdom.
Wait,
Political commentators, Twitch streamers,
This is a deranged
Pog!
pervert.
Pogaroo! Chat, you're in it. It's not just that I'm in it. Chat, you're in it too. We made it, boys. We made it into a Wisecrack video,
This is a deranged pervert.
and they didn't even censor chat. Don't believe your ears. Operators are standing by. Wow. This is dope. Is that the Shabibo? I'm a libertarian. No, this is Shabibo trying to cope for the president saying, stand by, stand back. Also, what was I gonna say? Bro, you could have had some drip on though for the future, bruh.
and vloggers eager to dispense wisdom. But these thinkers aren't just thinking into a vacuum. They're developing intellectual brands. It's the brands of people like Amy Cuddy that allow them to keep raking in speaking deals, or the brands of columnists like Paul Krugman or Bari Weiss, which rack up book deals. While, in a sense, this is nothing new, there are some unique challenges faced by today's would-be intellectuals. There's a growing sense that intellectuals of all stripes are producing knowledge cynically, with a certain agenda in mind. And if you're looking for the stuff that comes out of policy institutes, think tanks, and the speaking circuit, you're not wrong. General distrust toward mainstream ideas, along with a declining faith in government institutions, seems to have drawn Nobel Prize winning economists like Paul Krugman, who, sometimes sucks ass, who cares? And also Bari Weiss. Like, what are you oh god. This video gives me hope in certain moments where I'm like, this is actually a pretty good video. And then it gives me brain cancer at the same time because it's like, ugh, Bari Weiss. Listen, I'm a doo-doo butt, okay? I'm a himbo.
You are making
I say dumb shit all the time.
Mainstream.
But having said all that, I think I still have probably more processing power than Bari Weiss, that's for sure.
Ideas, along with a declining faith in government institutions, seems to have drawn many of us to outside commentators, to rogue public intellectuals. When everything is broken, it makes perfect sense to look for an outside perspective. Elon Musk, as a thinker, is appealing precisely because America's infrastructure is crumbling. Maybe you love how he's trying to revolutionize transportation, or maybe you think he's deeply misguided, but most can probably agree that the problems he's addressing are problems to begin with. Bill Gates, both the public intellectual and the person funneling money into intellectual endeavors that fit his worldview, can step up to much praise and many accolades precisely because of our waning public health infrastructure. But what's going on with Neil? If the marketplace of ideas loves one thing, it's competition. And if you're looking to craft an intellectual brand, you've got to outcompete the rest. As David Carr wrote in 2012, the now ancient routes to credibility at small magazines and newspapers, toiling in menial jobs while learning the business, have been wiped out, replaced by an algorithm of social media heat and blog traction. Social media, especially Twitter and Facebook, have made it possible to very easily quantify the currency an idea has via engagement and shares. If I'm getting retweeted more, I'm being heard more, and I'm winning in the ideas industry, on my way to book deals, New York Times columns, and lucrative speaking gigs. And while this might be the pinnacle of the marketplace of ideas, it's also exposed a problem with that market. Markets are great at finding the equilibrium of supply and demand. It can really help me decide how to price my 80 potatoes so I can sell them all. But this mathematical equation doesn't solve for truth. It does, however, find out exactly how many people want to retweet Neil deGrasse Tyson complaining that a marriage story should be called a divorce story.
He's so boring. Like, I'm shocked that, like, someone who's actually so intelligent could sound like such a fucking moron who wants to sound intelligent. Like, what are you trying to prove, brother?
The free market of ideas often overvalue name brand intellectuals who have long given up on being insightful. Dresner explores how many intellectuals have taken to hiring a staff, who go as far as to outsource the writing or research of their work. Fareed Zakaria, for instance, has a staff of 8 people to run his show and write his columns. Neil Ferguson,
HasanAbi, the popular Twitch broadcaster taking over the airwaves, for instance, has 20,000 members in his chat that he freely steals the intellectual labor from. Whoa, I just got called out, dude.
Ferguson has a full-time researcher and undergraduates assisting him. And in the end, it can lead to a serious decline in quality. Most people who are good at being intellectuals are lousy at managing subordinates, Dresner argues. Fittingly, in 2012, Zakaria was accused of plagiarism after cutting and pasting from a New Yorker essay. In 2015, there were dozens of such accusations against him that had piled up. It shouldn't be surprising that the majority of dialogue happening on YouTube or Twitter is the slam dunk. Nobody is going around looking for robust ideologies to critique. They're looking for rubes who make seemingly bizarre claims about feral hogs, or Elon Musk making bad predictions about COVID deaths. YouTube commentators are looking for the dumbest, most outrageous thing to make a video about to soak up easy views. We demand it, and they supply it. It also drives a market of, well, actually material by people like Neil deGrasse Tyson, who can incessantly complain that we're all using the word awesome wrong. And on the other hand, there's people like Michael, who can't wait to pithily leave a response about how dumb his Twitter takes are. At the same time, as sociologist Will Davies writes,
I didn't know that Zakaria was caught plagiarizing so much. I was wondering what the fuck happened to him. Like, I was thinking about that the other day. Like, what the fuck happened to Fareed Zakaria, however you say it in the American accent. You're next? No, I'm irrelevant.
truth has become
He's still on CNN? Is he? Does he still have his show on CNN? I haven't seen him. I thought they took a show off. I never see him anymore.
a kind of war zone that is not very good at finding the truth. Truth, he argues, comes from dialogue and consensus, not from a weird fetishization of conflict and debate. When scientists, for instance, are trying to create a COVID vaccine, the guy shouting "debate me" about his theory of microscopic minions is not the missing piece of the scientific puzzle. There are certainly public intellectuals still out there, and like all things, there are good ones and bad ones. But the actually terrifying thing is
Oh no. Debate lords, yeah. Debate lords certainly are nowhere near the process of arriving at I don't know, the truth or anywhere near intelligentsia to begin with. They are
His name
they are
is
pretty
Hasan.
much they are pretty much just doing what Neil deGrasse Tyson does on a daily basis, but from a platform of irrelevance. Here's some Keg W cool. What the fuck? Oh my god, she's so jacked. What the fuck? Okay.
how hard it is to navigate where good information is. Even as a chronically online millennial, I can't help but question every single item that comes across my newsfeed. Is it some thought leader shrieking into the void? Is it some paid-for think tank study? But what do you think? Has the rise of the thought leader ruined intellectual discourse?
This
Is
video
Twitter
makes me want to stop watching you. Why? I've literally never fucking told you that I'm a thought leader or even intelligent. You watch me because I make things that are harder to comprehend, more palatable in an entertaining capacity. Like, I entertain you while also showing you the inherent contradictions under capitalism and also the hypocrisies of both sides on numerous issues as it pertains to the realm of politics. And also, I'm honest with you. That's it. That is the secret to my appeal. Many people try to say, and also I work hard. That's another reason. But like, that's it. No, I only watch you because you're hot. LMAO. Don't be diluted. You mean delusional?
making any search for objective truth impossible? Let us know in the comments. Big thanks to our patrons for all your support. Hit that subscribe button like you're retweeting deGrasse Tyson's bad hot take. And as always, peace.
Oh, you're such a big man, Hasan.
Remember when you said you'd move to a mountain if Trump v. Biden 2020 on the issues? Were you lying? Yes. And also, I didn't say I would move to a mountain. I said I'd think about moving into a mountain and living an anarcho-primitivist lifestyle. Turn off cam and see your viewership drop? Why would I do that? I don't know why you're like... Everyone that turns off camera would automatically see a drop in viewership. That's why there are very few streamers that are no-cam streamers. That's one. Number two... Why the fuck would I handicap myself? You're like trying to attack me, but also simultaneously complimenting me by saying I'm hot. So thank you. Yeah, okay. I mean, I'll take it. Yeah, I'm a fucking titty streamer. Great. I don't give a shit. Yeah. Do you want me to mute my microphone too? That would probably That would probably create a drop in viewership as well. Is he live right now? So terrible that Facebook and Twitter took down the story of smoking gun emails related to Sleepy Joe Biden and his son Hunter in the New York Post. This is the only beginning for them. There's no worse than a corrupt politician. Repeal Section 230. That was a good video overall. Bro, turn off stream and watch the viewership drop, baby. You have a tendency to verbally analyze anyone who disagrees with you. You ban dissenting opinions, reducing the quality of the debate and increasing the size of your echo chamber. That's not true. I let you in here despite all your fucking idiotic takes all day today.